Guys, this is going to be such a tough video to make because these videos, first of all, they always spark so much hate. Like, people just hate when people give opinions. We're talking about the Ballon d'Or. Yeah, the top five. And the reason why I want to make this video now is that there's not much left, right? So, like, really, we're at the point where, yeah, the Ballon d'Or ceremony is in 3 months. But really, there's not going to be much that changes anything. I mean, I don't know what is going to happen in the next 3 months. We don't really see any beginning of the season ever really impacting anything recency wise. Whereas, yes, this period of the last, let's say, 8 weeks of the season, the Champions League knockouts, whatever football is in the summer for the international, these do really impact Ballon d'Or decisions. If we look at, last year's Ballon d'Or, for example, we had a situation where the Champions League finishes and everybody thinks Vinny Jr. is going to get the Ballon d'Or because City get knocked out and as good of a season Rodri had, and then Spain does the Spain, and Rodri is a vital part of it, And the thing is with last year's Ballon d'Or, I said this when we got to the ceremony. Rodri won. He beat Vinny Jr. Some people were really upset. I felt like for the whole season, Rodri was just slightly more consistent, and I had no problem with him winning. Some people objectively were so mad about it because they want to point out Vinny Jr.'s stats, and Vinny had a very good year. So I was looking at the ceremony last year saying, I didn't really care who won the award. It was 50-50 for me. Rodri wins. And yeah, I was okay with that. I wasn't one of those people that was outraged because there were people that were like, yo, Vinny got robbed. Either one was good with me. So the Ballon d'Or, outside of the Messi Ronaldo era, has been so interesting because it's a lot more even when you look at the competition and the competitors and who's at the top. It's not as obvious between those two. It's changing every year. And so, we look at this is last month's ranking. So going into the end of the Champions League, going into the Nations League, this is where it was. Score 90 had this as their rankings. They have Yamal at 1, Dembele at 2, Rafinha at 3, Pedri at 4, Salah at 5, which, look, I was okay with. And I said this. I said, look, if Dembele goes out in the final of the Champions League and he has some monster performance, then, man, maybe he does deserve it. I don't know. I don't think Dembele is the best player in the world. I think he's made massive strides in his career. I think he's definitely to be considered it's the top 10. But I look at the PSG team. The team is so good. So it's like, okay, then do you give the award to the team, to the player on the best team that year? Is that how this award works? It's so subjective, this award. I look at it like it should be the best player in the world, but then it ends up being so much PR. Well, this guy's team won, and this guy's team better, and that's kind of now what it's turned into. And we see a lot of the past players on Twitter. They're always, taking stabs at it. And, like, I feel like a lot of people, in the camp of, look, Salah's number 5. A lot of people look at Salah and Rafinha because then you have the viewers who, they like stats. So they look at Rafinha. Let me pull up the stats of those two. Like, Rafinha this season, guys, has had 34 and 25 in 57. All right? That's crazy. All right? That's like unheard of. He's got 59 goal contributions in 57 games. And we look at Salah. Salah's had 57 and 52. So both of these guys have been absolute freaks of nature when it comes to putting up stats and being clinical. But objectively, when I look at this list, I'll just tell you this. I look at this list and I think that Yamal and Pedri, from what I've watched this season, and probably Vitinha, have been the best 3 players this season. I'm fine with having Dembele, Salah in the top 5. Rafinha as well. Like, that's how I'm looking at my rankings. So the new rankings from Score 90 came out, and this is what they have. Guys, they took Rafinha out of the top 5 and put Mbappe in the top 5, which I think is super interesting. I love Mbappe. I don't think I would do that. Pedri moving up to 3. So the question is, these rankings just came out after the Nations League final, after the Champions League. So their rankings have decided, hey, we don't think Dembele did enough in that final, and we definitely, if you watch the Nations League, we don't think Dembele did enough in that knockout match they had to deserve anything. Okay, now did Yamal do much for Spain? Well, Yamal in the semifinal? Yeah. In the final, he got absolutely pocketed by Nuno Mendes. He didn't do much. Portugal goes through and they take care of stuff, which, look, you think might help Vitinha's case or Nuno Mendes with how well they played. I look at it that the Ballon d'Or is such an award that's just a consistent ranking over the season. So a lot of these rankings never had Vitinha or Nuno Mendes literally until the last few weeks, even in the top 15. So now that they've worked their way in there, does the recency boost them up to 1 and 2? It seems like these rankings don't support that. And I think the committee ultimately who decides this award, they're not going to switch up just that vastly. So I think the top 5 is the top 5. And I think we could expect definitely, guys, that I just look at it. I think Yamal, Dembele, is probably one of those two is going to win the award. Did any of these players, did anything crazy happen in the last few weeks that's going to overtake it? Do I think Pedri's the best midfielder in the world? I do. Do I think he's going to win the award? Is it a Luka Modric year? I don't think so. I don't think so, And guys, look, I'll be real. The international is so important that even a Nations League like this summer, with the candidates that we have here, if Spain were to have won that and Yamal would have scored in the final, I would tell you this award is over. But that didn't happen, right? That didn't happen. And so usually that's a huge final say in this. So I know there's the committee that's going to say, well, what about Vitinha? He should be included. Rodri won last year. Look, this stuff is crazy. It's hard to predict. What I will tell you that is really interesting, if we look at the last couple Ballon d'Or winners, right? Rodri won. What happened in the summer? Spain won, right? Messi won. What happened in the summer? Argentina won. Benzema won that year. Nothing in that summer. Real Madrid has a crazy Champions League. Messi wins in 2021 with PSG. So you guys, look, that was the year as well that I felt like Lewandowski should, this was the one Lewandowski should have won. But you look at the recent Ballon d'Or list, right? You know what I mean? So it's one of those where the Ballon d'Or is such an interesting award now because it was Messi, Ronaldo for the longest time. I mean, even Messi won 2 years ago. People felt like that was a robbery, but I'm telling you, the international football was so vital to it. So does that give Portugal any legitimacy? This is what I want to do, okay? Not that I even want to like, I don't do betting, guys, but what I do is I look at odds because odds tell you where the money is. And I will tell you something very interesting with the betting odds. Very interesting. So listen up. Before 2 weeks ago, all right, before we had the Champions League final, before we had this Nations League, Yamal was minus 200. Dembele was Yamal was minus 150, I think, in my video. Dembele was plus 180 or plus 200. Now, what does that mean? Okay, when Yamal was minus 150, to win $100, you would have had to put 150, which is not amazing odds. It means he's very favored. If you put 100 on Dembele when he was plus 180 or plus 200, you would have won 180 or 200 bucks on top of the bet you put, which means that Yamal was significantly more favored. Now, you have to put 138 bucks on Dembele to get 100 back, and if you put 100 on Yamal, you'll get 100 back. Yamal's odds have dropped significantly in the last 2 weeks, and Dembele, who was pretty much half the odds of Yamal, is now actually favored according to betting odds. This is where the money, the whales, the sharks, this is what they bet on. So the betting odds have decided that, hey, we think that PSG have won the most important trophy this season. We think the Champions League is more important than the Nations League, which I agree with. And they look at that saying, look, in the recent few years, who has won the award? And we'll go back to this, right? If we just go look at the last 3 years, right? Who has won the award in the last 3 years? Rodri, who won the most important trophy. That the Euros is more important than Champions League last year for Vinny. Messi, who didn't really do much in club at all that year. He wasn't even the League One team of the season. Won the World Cup. And Benzema, that year, won the Champions League. So it's very interesting to see how the odds have shifted, and they're really pricing in now that PSG won the Champions League. They think Dembele is going to win the Ballon d'Or, and it's not that much of a favorite, guys, to be honest. This is pretty close. Like, this is as close in terms of betting odds to 50-50 as it's going to get. I mean, I guess if they were both plus 100. So it is very close. And you can tell by the odds, which, guys, whether or not, look, this is an opinion, this is just a fact. I don't think Salah, I don't think Rafinha, I don't think Kvaratskhelia, Pedri, or Mbappe have any chance. These are the odds that they've put up. I don't think these lot are going to have any chance. So ultimately, what's going to change this being between Dembele and Yamal? What is going to change it? And guys, right here, look, they say it right here. In his latest showdown, Dembele was second best, which is why odds have lengthened from minus 275. So, I don't know. I don't think they wrote that the right way. So, I mean, guys, what do you think? What do you think? The odds have changed. When we look at Yamal, if you're a statistics guy, look, this is why I say with the Ballon d'Or, and we've seen some Ballon d'Or winners in the past that won off of not having the stats. Yamal had 18 goals, 25 assists in 55 matches. For me, it was the eye test. It was watching. It's not even that he's 17. Watching this kid play this year, I thought he was the best player, okay? Dembele, 33, 15, and 49. 21 in the Ligue 1, 8 and 6 in the Champions League. It's a good enough campaign, and they won the trophy. He was the major output of stats. Now Rafinha and Salah, they're crying because they had ultimate seasons, and they won't win the Ballon d'Or. They won't. I don't think they will. It would be a shock to me if they did. So off of these rankings, guys, what is your reaction? If you guys are watching this video and you had to choose one player between Yamal and Dembele, because I'm telling you, when I see those odds, I don't know what's going to change. Is any Club World Cup, I mean, this is where teams are going to be trying their new players, rotating players. You know, is that going to change anything? No. Is the first 6 weeks of the season going to change anything? Is it? Is it? I don't know. What if Dembele scores 15 goals in 8 matches, and what if Yamal scores, way more than he was scoring this year, and he starts off like crazy? Do those recencies help their cases at all? I don't know. I don't think so. I look at the last couple of years and how these awards have been decided. It's kind of been like, hey, who contributed the most to that campaign? PSG, they won a lot of trophies this year, and they also won the Champions League. Barcelona, they won 2, but they didn't get quite to the finish line. I still wish we saw that Barcelona-PSG final. So, look, in the recent few years, the way it's been decided, we've just gone over it, right? And we've seen players who have won it not off stats previously. Modric, even Messi, when he won the recent one, the stats were not insane. It was about the international campaign. So, Rodri as well, right? It was about him contributing and being the best player on that team. What do you guys think? Ultimately, guys, if I'm going to put a bet, this is the thing. I think Yamal should win the Ballon d'Or. I do. I think how I look at it in the grand scheme of things, that feels more right to me. Whether you agree with that or not, would I put my money on it ultimately after watching those odds and seeing how these rankings and who's won in the past? No. But what I will tell you is this. It is a PR award now, and it does seem like the PR is more in Yamal's favor than Dembele's. So the ultimate question is, why do the bookies have such a big change now with Dembele at first? Like, do these guys know something? Do the insiders know? That is something we're going to have to see. I don't know if we're going to do a Ballon d'Or update, guys, until literally like the week of the ceremony. So hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.